The Cubs' best player, Kyle Tucker, is dealing with an enormous slump. What can he do to get out of it? Well, one thing he did was put JoBu from the movie Major League in his locker. Very bad to drink JoBu's rum. We're going to talk about Kyle Tucker, what he needs to do to try to get back on track again, a mental fitness break for him, or he'll be sat out of the lineup. Also, the pitching matchup for today's doubleheader, all that right here on the Cubs baseball channel. So like and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and comment. Let's get this thing going. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs baseball channel. Thank you for being here, and let's talk a little bit of baseball. Now, one of my favorites, probably my favorite baseball movie, is Major League, the movie Major League. Loved it. Willie Mays Hayes, Ricky Vaughn. You know, I loved everything about it. How about Pedro Cerrano? Remember him? And he had JoBu in his locker. Boog Shambi on the Cubs TV broadcast said that he saw JoBu in Kyle Tucker's locker, right? Remember Pedro Cerrano in the movie? He's like, I asked JoBu to come to take fear from bats, and I offer him cigar and rum. And then in his locker, he's kind of like Cerrano in the movie. He's got cigar and rum and an egg and a bunch of other stuff. And in the whole movie, he's trying to hit curveball, which he wasn't very good at. Now I see him on Allstate commercials. But it kind of got me thinking about what Tucker could do to get out of this slump. And you've heard about teams looking to figure out ways to get out of slumps. Baseball players have always been very superstitious. So, one way to do it, if it's bad luck, is cleaning rituals. That's using special potions and baths and plants and wines and perfumes to cleanse the environment, right? Offerings and sacrifices. In the movie, remember, it was a live chicken that Cerrano wanted to sacrifice, and the guys went to Kentucky Fried Chicken and brought him back a bucket of chicken instead of sacrificing a live chicken, right? Ambulance and talisman could be something that you do to attract good luck or provide protection against negative influences. Divination, which is like, like a priest or a priestess having a consulting session with them. Maybe they're able to identify the appropriate remedy, or maybe you build one of those necklaces. As a Catholic, we've got a lot of those necklaces. So whatever religion you might be, you know what I'm talking about. Or maybe it's something a little more simple. Maybe it's the fact that he's hurt. It all goes back to that game where he's sliding into second base and he hurt his hand and he left the game. And when you look at the struggles, since then, it's been really bad, right? And he's frustrated. He's still having, even with all the stuff going on, really with the lack of success that he's having, he did so well at the beginning of the year that he's still having a very, formidable season, right? But, you look at him and you're like, okay, what is going on right now? And it all seems to go back to that July 1st game. How does he get out of this? That's a whole nother question. But in his last 30 games, he's hitting 181, and he's got a 323 on base percentage. He's got such a great eye. And we wondered, who's the most valuable player on this team? We thought maybe it was Hollywood Pete. I was thinking about that. But now I realize that the most valuable player on the team is Kyle Tucker. Because when Kyle Tucker's playing well, this team is playing well. When Kyle Tucker was hitting, everybody else was hitting. Now the Cubs really struggle to score runs. It's not like they're just able to work around the fact that he's not hitting. It just continues and continues, right? So he's getting booed. 263 batting average last time I looked, right? He's got more walks than strikeouts. He's stolen 25 bags. I mean, he's like having like a pretty good year, but since July 1st, he's hitting under 200, 195, right? And I talked about his last 30 games and how he's struggling. So it's like, okay, well, he's also gone, 23 games without a home run? That's a big deal too, because this guy hits home runs. He talked about not getting so emotional, right? And then you see him ground out and not run the first. And he got booed, right? And when you don't run the ground outs, you get booed. That's the way it is. Wrigley or anywhere. Little League. You get yelled at by your coach. Also shows you the frustration that he's having right now with his lack of production. Some guys handle it in other ways. Throw helmets. Pete Crow Armstrong will, slam a helmet or maybe, fling a bat. Guys do that stuff. Tucker's not a very emotional guy, but this is really killing him right now, his lack of production. Now, I want to say something. I can remember my dad sitting with me at a game, and we were watching Hall of Famer Eddie Murray, and he grounded out, and he didn't really run very fast, and everybody was booing him. My dad said, Eddie Murray's not here to run out ground balls. and what he meant was his job is to jog around the bases and hit home runs. His job is to drive in guys, legging out an infield hit, putting that, what we call in baseball, eyewash out there where you're running real hard and you're going to get thrown out. It's great, but that's not what this guy's paid for. He's paid to hit home runs. He's paid a lot to hit home runs. The Cubs gave up an enormous bounty to get him to hit home runs. And that's where the frustration is. I don't know if I would have booed him because, you know what, him grounding out again, and he does it a lot now, and he doesn't run. Hey, it's a bad thing for the kids, but I want to see him hit home runs. That's what he's paid to do, right? I know some of you guys are going to disagree with me on that. But since whatever was going on with his finger, right? And we called it a jammed right finger, right ring finger sliding into second base on June 1st. And then he left the game in the 5th. And then he was off on the 2nd, the very next day, June the 2nd. And then he sat out again on June 3rd, let the swelling go down. He said, hey, you get beat up playing sports, talking about the finger, just part of it, whatever it is. If you're saying that the finger's fine, the finger's not fine. It's just not fine. His bat speed is as low as it's been, right? Under 70 miles an hour. When he was at his best, it was 72.3, 72.4, somewhere in there. And now all of a sudden it's down to 71. That matters. His fast swing is way lower than it is. And I'm looking at, a chart put out by CBS Sports that has all the stuff on here, but it's all this analytics stuff, right? What kills me, though, is that his barrel rate is 2.8%. He was barreling the ball up 15% in April and June and 10% in May. So is it the finger or is it the fact that he's kind of in a rut right now and he can't figure it out? And that leads me to Craig Counsell kind of saying after the loss to the Brewers in game 1 of the doubleheader that got rained out for game 2. So it was really not a doubleheader, but he's going to sit him for mental rest. That's what we've been saying, Craig. That's what we've been saying. We've been saying it on here. Everybody that watches the Cubs and covers them have been saying that. It's okay to sit a guy to get mental rest. It's okay. Sometimes it's physical rest too. And that's why we were like wondering why you didn't play Owen Caissie over the weekend. And I was glad to see him in the lineup. There's a lot of positives here. And I know I was on my buddy Joey's podcast, and he asked me if I liked Craig Counsell. I do like Craig Counsell, okay? I mean, I may disagree with the manager on stuff, but that doesn't mean I don't like him. I mean, I think he's a really smart baseball guy. I know some of you guys, and I read the comments every day, are fed up with it. We got this guy. He's going to be around for a while, right? This isn't David Ross. This is a long-term contract, and we need Counsell to kind of be the guy to make good decisions, to keep the team intact. And maybe that's why he does some of the stuff he does. He doesn't want to lose his best player mentally, right? Because he already has something going on physically. But I think it's a great idea to give him a mental rest day or 2 or 3. Not everybody's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player ever. And he had one of his best games with the flu. I mean, the guy was amazing, right? Not everybody's like that. Some people as good as Tucker need a day off, need 2 days off, need 3, and they need to figure out if something's wrong with his finger. If his finger's jammed and he can't close his hand, maybe that's what's going on too. But the fact that he's not barreling up the ball, I mean, it's incredible to watch all the weak groundouts. And I know that there's a bunch of pressure on the Cubs hitting coaches to try to get this figured out because they're paid to do that. And this is as frustrating as I can ever remember. Now, let me say this. Owen Caissie got his first major league hit, but he came up in a spot before that with the bases loaded and got himself out. I think that when, you're a young player, you just got to go through this. I still think before he gets sent down, he's going to have some big hits. I really do. And I was hoping that he would get that against the Brewers. But it was good to see him in the lineup. He made a nice catch in left field. He's going to be a player you guys are going to love. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, the Brewers are killing it right now. Unlike the Cardinals, one of our other rivals, I mean, just tip your cap to the Brewers. They're just playing such great baseball. And they're getting a lot of lucky breaks, too. I mean, I'm watching that game. Cade Horton gets a finger blister, and then they hit a home run, and then he's doing good, and then a finger blister. Like, okay, that happens, right? But why didn't it happen against one of the other teams? It just happened against the Brewers because everything is going their way right now, right? And then they just tee off on the bullpen. Caissie's up there, bases loaded, strikes out. The Cubs the Brewers are doing everything right, and the Cubs are having trouble keeping their head above water right now. And they've won now, 14 out of 15? Who knows what the winning streak is, because the Cubs had a pretty big lead on those guys before they turned it around. But Craig Counsell's from Milwaukee. He was their old manager. He's been on that team before. They gave away when they hit the 12-game winning streak, right? Everybody got a free burger or can get a free burger at George Webb, right? I think it's this week. What is the 20th or something? Anyway, it doesn't matter to me. The funny thing is I've talked to my friends from Wisconsin, and everybody's like either doesn't know what the George Webb burger joint is or thought it went out of business. So these guys are going to give away all these hamburgers. And Craig Counsell's like, I don't know what it is. I've tried to find the comp to it. And because I've never heard of George Webb. But George Webb burgers right now, they got their money's worth on, I don't know how many hamburgers they're going to give away. But everybody that they have that can get on the line in the kitchen, they better have them there, because it's going to be a lot of people showing up for those free burgers. I just think it's funny that Craig Counsell, I never heard of it. One of my other buddies from huge Cubs fan, by the way, Boyd, you watch, shout out to you, from Green Bay. And he's like, never never been in there before, but I've been by it. He said it was, he compared it to a Waffle House without character. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. Look, some good news here, guys. Latest power ratings, Cubs are still 6th. You know, like how about that? Still 6th, despite the fact that this team is in a huge rut and they're struggling. You know, and that just goes to show you that it's perspective, right? This is a long season, and there's going to be ups and downs. And I've said this before on here before, and I'm going to say it again. It's not what you do right now. It's what you do in the postseason that matters. And getting Kyle Tucker to look like Kyle Tucker again, we got this month, we got next month, and then it's time to go. And so the Cubs got to get this guy straight, because even throwing Owen Caissie out there isn't a long-term fix this season. It's just hey, take a deep breath. And by the way, congratulations to Owen Caissie for his first hit. I just wish it would have came with the bases loaded. But the Cubs are still one of the best teams in baseball. If they can get through this and get Tucker back, they could be dangerous. And the last thing I want to say on the Tucker thing before I talk about the pitching matchup for the doubleheader. There's a reason why guys that are as good as him stats are pretty consistent. Because whatever reason, they always end about the same. And maybe they have slow starts. Maybe they have, slumps like this. But when the ball starts falling for these guys, it falls. And so that's what Tucker is going to have to work back towards. But I think when he starts turning it around, he's going to have a ton of success. I think all of his failures are going to end up evening out before it's all said and done. At least I hope so. And maybe I'm just wishful thinking. All right, final thing on today's show, and thank you guys for hanging, as always. Doubleheader starting pitching. So with the rain out last night, we got Matthew Boyd pitching game 1 for the Cubs, 11-6. He should be 13-5 this year, or even better if the Cubs did a little bit better helping him out with offense. Chad Patrick for the Brewers, 3-7 with a 3.52 ERA. And then that's game 1, by the way, at 1:20. And then at 7:05, game 2. And another interesting matchup, Brandon Woodruff, who's been very good, 4-0 record and a 2.06 ERA against Jamison Tyone. He's back. Tyone's back after the calf injury, 7-6 record and a 4.44 ERA. So we'll see if the Cubs can they get back on track again? And can they beat the Brewers, who win every day? I don't know. I think they can. Anyway, power ratings number 6. Cubs are still 95+% chance to make the playoffs. The sky's not falling. But I'll tell you what, it stinks when you get beat like that, like yesterday. And that's what it's like, guys. And I want you to think about this really hard right now. That's what it has felt like this year for our friends in St. Louis. So just keep that in mind. When I was a kid, I was growing up, I always had to eat everything on my plate because there was always starving people somewhere else, in Africa and other places, right? And that's what I want you guys to remember after taking a shellacking like that yesterday. Just be glad you're not a Cardinals fan, because that would be like every day for you. Eat your vegetables.